Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Other Scopes, a Schneider Electric podcast where the idea is to look at sustainability not so much from a business perspective that we are used to as sustainability consultants, but rather from an everyday life angle. So, for instance, look at topics like arts or sports or the music industry, which happen to be the subject of our first episode. And if I am saying we, then I mean my great colleague Vanda Seres, who is working as a sustainability expert in the Schneider Electric office in Budapest. Wanda, thanks so much for joining.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Moritz. And please then welcome my colleague, Moritz Scholz, who is also working with me as a sustainability expert.
And the topic today is fashion. And since it's such a wide field, we thought of why not concentrating on one particular piece, an iconic piece, actually, which is the jeans.
And who would be the best invitee or the best company to introduce this topic than Jeanologia, a company which is situated in the east of Spain, in Valencia. And we are very happy to welcome our invitee, Begonia Garcia from Jeanologia, who is going to walk us through the topic and introduce herself and the company.
Thanks for inviting us to this great initiative to know about sustainability aspects of different industries. We are, as you mentioned, focused on the textile finishing and fashion finishing, and more particularly to the garment finishing industry, where the king of the category is the jeans. I'm Begonia Garcia, representing today Jeanologia. I work as a product manager for the company, and I joined 27 years ago the company, so all my career.
Thanks so much for being with us today. And I think before we dig deeper into Jeanologia, sustainability of jeans, but also your personal background, I think there's no better way to kick this up than with some little math. Yesterday, I went to the office and I tried to figure out how many colleagues were actually wearing jeans, which was sometimes a bit socially awkward because, you just go there and you look and is it the jeans? Is it the chino? Is it something else? But never mind. So in the end, I came up with 67 persons wearing jeans. And I just quickly wanted to ask you, how many liters of water would this represent?
So for every jeans we produce, average water that it's used just to finish one pair of jeans, it's around 45 liters per jeans produced. So imagine the quantity of liters that are used to produce the 3,000 millions of jeans that are produced every year.
With your technology or without your technology, the 45 liters?
The 45 liters is average consumption, right? When we talk about a jean introducing Jeanologia technologies, we can reduce the quantity down to 1 liter of water.
That is a very big difference between the 45 and 1. I think we can all agree that that's a very big impact that jeans have on our water footprint. And I was wondering, where exactly does a jean, or when exactly the production is using this water?
The manufacturing process of a pair of jeans starts with the growing of the cotton, right? So in here is where a lot of resources are used, water resources are used. Once we have the fiber, and we are not considering the agricultural side of the production, once we have the cotton is made, the fiber is made into a thread, right? Then after the thread is done, we dye part of the thread of a pair of jeans, and one part of the thread remains white, right? And then we weave the fabric, right? And once the fabric is weaved, we are able to cut and sew one garment. The moment we have this garment finished, it do not have a nice look. It does not look like a wear pair of jeans. It does not. It is not comfortable because it is not softened. So it goes to a process of garment finishing. This is the last step of the production before going into the shop. Jeanologia is the expertise and the main technologies that we supply and the main solutions that we are giving is on this part of the manufacturing process.
That's great. I think there's a very nice way to leaning in my next question about what kind of solutions Jeanologia offers. What are these technological solutions that can reduce this water impact?
So we have different solutions for different kind of processes. The first to start with is a laser to decolorize locally a garment to make it look like a vintage garment. You probably on the 70 or 67 jeans that you analyzed yesterday, probably part of these jeans had one area, right? What we call the use part or the whisker part, which make them look like, worn for a long time, right? So this part traditionally is done by sun handling, garment by garment, or using very toxic chemicals like potassium permanganate. The laser is replacing all these technology and giving, a great opportunity for first time reduction. Second, of course, water and water reduction as well, but mainly is replacing an operation that has a big impact in the workers' health. Why? Because all these manual operations and breathing this toxic chemical might lead to worker health problems, right? So laser is addressing this issue. Then we have a set of solutions that are addressed to reduce water in the wet processing, commonly known in the language of the industry, which is this area that everyone knows, the stone wash, for instance. It's really the garments are washed with the stones. But these processes are always associated to huge quantity of chemicals, a lot of energy that is required to heat the water to reach the right temperature. Mm-hmm. So with these technologies, we are addressing these problems: water consumption, energy consumption, and eliminating all the more harmful chemicals. Okay, these solutions are ozone-based, and I always say I don't know how we have been able to live so long without ozone in a laundry, because this is the best ally to reduce water consumption in the laundry. And in addition to that, we have created a technology that is called eFlow, which is based on the creation of nanobubbles. So this technology, what it's doing is using, instead of water as a carrier of the chemicals that we need to create these different effects, we use air, microbubbles of air. So that is really reducing the quantity of water that is required to give certain performance to the final product and looks as well. In addition to that, we have created what we call H2O. And this system takes the water that comes from the washing processes. We clean it also with an ozone process so that we have water that is ready to go back into the system, creating a water closed loop cycle, which allows us to use the same water for days and months.
I would nevertheless have a follow-up question on this, and I will quickly draw a sort of similarity with another industry we've been working in, which was the steel industry. And I once had a very interesting discussion about it when it comes to recycled steel, which is kind of from a scope perspective. So we are always thinking the scope 1, 2, and 3 is kind of in a way, okay, you take this recycled steel, which has already been extracted, so it draws down your scope 3 emissions. But on the other hand, it is energy intensive to kind of recycle it, which then draws up the scope 2, because it's like, or also like the scope 1. Would something similar happen with your product, so that we could say, okay, we save this water, but on the other hand, we would need more energy to treat the garments?
Let's say that we are in a compensation situation. We use energy to run the machines, and here we will reduce the running times because we are shortening the processes time in order to get the same aspects and the same look. But the areas where we use more energy is heating the water and drying the garments. But we are using way less water. That means that energy necessary for heating the water, it's considerably reduced. And in terms of overall processes, going from using a heating energy to an electrical energy also opens the possibilities, to reduce the impact by using alternative energy sources.
Okay, so if I want to summarize it, it's not only that using Jeanologia technology does not bring up your energy consumption, but it also opens the possibility to have your energy covered by renewables, right?
Exactly. And also, we don't have to forget that the textiles are produced in very specific countries, right? And these countries are places with traditional a lot of sun. So the possibilities there are even higher than in other countries. And they are already doing a lot of these different solutions.
Do you also accompany your clients with a sort of full package that you say, look, we're not only giving you the machines, but we also come with a solution like to connect it to solar panels, to connect it to other sort of renewable energies? So is there something you could think of?
This is not really the scope of Jeanologia. Really, our scope is to implement our technologies and, very important, accompany our customers to make a good use of the technology, right? So how to integrate these technologies into their traditional processes so that they can shift from one production model to a different production model without, people is not able to change from day to night. So this is a journey. So we are accompanying them, helping them to take the most of the technologies in the production sites.
And now that you mentioned technology, if you could just elaborate a little bit on how the idea of garment finishing and especially the topic of jeans came up. And also if you can walk us through how you are collaborating with your clients.
So Jeanologia was born as a consultancy company, right? And our consultancy was technical consultancy to help finishers to improve their processes. And so we wanted to move forward and increase this optimization of processes, thinking on using less water, less energy, and not damaging the health of the workers, right? This is how we started with the laser and how we follow with the other technologies that I mentioned before. But to decide what can we suggest to our customers in order to be able to reduce the impact and accomplish our mission, we wanted something that helped us to measure water in the same way, measure energy in the same way, measure the worker impact in the same way, right? This was around 2002, and we didn't find any system or any tool that helped us to do that. So we create our own one. So we create a system that allows us to measure the environmental impact of the processes that we were applying in every single garment, right? Garment by garment. So we created this as an internal tool to drive our R&D. And then we realized that it was a great tool to improve, to motivate our teams as well, right? So the product development team was not just being worried about creating a nice garment, but they were also worried about creating a nice garment with a low impact. So we decided, why we don't put this into the hands of the industry? Even though they do not have the Jeanologia technologies, right? Because at the end of the day, having tools to understand where we are is the best part to make targets, and you know very much about what I'm talking about because you are dedicated to that, right? So where I am, where I want to go, and what are the actions that I can take to create that, right? So it was around 2009, that we opened this tool to the rest of the industry. This tool is called EIM, Environmental Impact Measuring System, right? So H&M was one of the pioneers on using this tool. This happens, I think it was in 2012. And from then, the EIM tool has grown considerably and has become a standard, right? Many other brands are using the EIM as a tool to quantify the water, the energy, how the chemicals we are using, and worker impact. But once we have this quantification, right, the system directly compare this against standards, right? So against average of the industry. And so this allows us to classify one process as a process of low impact, medium impact, or high impact, which is great from a business to business perspective, right? Because that this garment looks perfect, but maybe the impact is very high. So you can take decisions based on that, right? But it's also a great tool to inform the final consumer as well.
When you say final user, are you referring here to the companies who are selling the jeans or any person who goes into a store and wants to buy the jeans?
The final consumer. I mean, the one that is going to a shop and buying a garment, right? Which is more and more conscious about, the environmental impact of every product they consume, right? And having this information, it's also good for them, right, to knowing nothing about the manufacturing of a textile, but knowing about the impact that this garment is generating, which at the end of the day, this is part of the target of the European Union, right? And for me as a consumer, it's great to know, or to take decisions also based on this impact, right?
Yeah, but for example, I'm just going to share my anecdote from like 2 weeks ago. I just went to a store and I wanted to buy jeans. And now you mentioned that the consumer is more conscious. We want to obviously buy more sustainable, greener garments. But how do I see this information?
If we think of the European regulations, they are seeking from a digital passport. And a digital passport at the end is information on what are the resources required in every single step of the manufacturing process. But it's not necessary to wait until that moment, right? You already have some retailers and some brands that are giving this information through a tag. So where they are informing about the characteristics of the fibers, about the characteristics of the process that they are doing, and if this is using less water or using less energy, right? So you have to read labels at that point, right? In the future, you will be able to read a QR. So if we are able to create like EINs for every single part of the supply chain, and we are able to put this together, that would be very easy for the final consumer to look at and to understand about the environmental impact of the products they buy from a retailer or from a brand. Or
maybe following up on this, because digitalization, which of course is like a huge, not only in sustainability but everywhere. Is this also something where Jeanologia is working in? Because I'm seeing you on the website as well, you're talking a lot of digital solutions. You're mentioning, for instance, this digital wash.
Yeah. So digitalization is the key because we are trying to digitalize all the different parts of the process. When we talk about environmental finishing, we use a software which is filled by the supplier, but it's a tool that guide you. At the end, the information is digitalized. And also, to compile with the new coming legislation. So this is one part of the digitalization of the process, but at the very end, right? So when the product is already made. During the fabrication and the manufacturing part of the creation of a product, there is the need to digitalize the processes. And there is the need to digitalize also the design. One of the areas as well in the manufacturing side where you use a lot of resources, right? And it's the part where no one is really focusing because apparently it has not such a big impact, but it's also an area that it needs to be addressed industry-wise, right? So from the designers to the manufacturing side, the communication between the designers and the producers, there is a big trial and error, right? So there are a lot of samples being submitted, and then the sample, this is not the right color, this is not the right pattern, this is not the right fit, right? So then there's a correction, and then the manufacturer does the correction and deliver a new sample, right? So this process can happen even 6 times for each product, right? So imagine the number of garments that are flying from one place to the other, because normally the decision centers are far away from the production center. So there is a big number of samples flying from one place to the other until we have the final garment to be sold, right? So if we are able to make a digital design, there will be necessary only one piece of these garments to be approved, right? Because everything else happens in a digital way. And this is part also of the solutions that we are trying to offer to our customers, which is this digital wash that you have seen in our webpage, right? Where we are able to work the product at a digital stage. And once we are happy with the final result, then we can go and produce the sample to be approved with the correct size, with the correct fit, with the correct finishing, with the correct color, with everything that makes this garment good to be sold.
Yeah.
Also in a digital way. Also,
I think listening to the answers, we can kind of conclude that digitalization is the key to making garments more sustainable, improve the processes, make them more efficient. Technologies, right?
Exactly. Yes, that is the case, right? And this digital wash, I mean, we have been working for a long time, right? In being able to visualize really, what the final product would look like, right? In an industry that we are used to touch, to feel, right? Because at the end, the textile is not only what you see, it's also when you are wearing it, what you feel, the softness, the comfort. So there is a lot of sensations there that are not possible to digitalize, right? So, but we need to use this tool as much as we can, keeping the idea of there is still the need to see the product, touch the product, feel the product, but all the process before that can be transformed into a digital product.
That's kind of another interesting aspect that you just mentioned there, and because you're on a kind of intersection at two very different worlds, which is on the one hand the engineering, and on the other hand you are working in this high fashion industry. So when we talk about the people you are kind of looking for as employees, what type would this be? Would this be really like an engineer who is interested in fashion?
I think this is one of the, clear success of Jeanologia, right? That we are putting together creative people, right? Creative in terms of product design, and that knows about fashion, that has, and this is, I think it's the characteristic of every Jeanology, is passionate about what they do, right? And in the other hand, we have engineers that are able to listen to the needs of these people and transforming into tools that help to achieve the goals of the designer. So the engineers do not necessarily need to know about fashion. They just need to understand what the designers are asking them for. Yeah. So putting together technology and fashion is, really the success of Jeanologia.
Yeah, I think during our conversation we have talked a lot about the water intensity, the energy intensity, all in all the impact that jeans have during their production. But I was dying to ask, what happens at the end of the life of jeans?
There are a lot of initiatives in the industry that looks for, taking these garments to be built back into fabric, but also as a raw material, right, for other industries. Like, for instance, there is a nice project with one company that is taking all these jeans for the construction. So it's a great insulation material. So you can take these jeans and transform them into something different, right? So there is great number of solutions for that. But what happened with all these garments that are never even bought for anyone, right? Because for many different reasons, right? Not the right color, not the right fit, not right. So this is one of the solutions that Jeanologia technologies, are perfect for, right? So taking those jeans that have never been sold and transforming into something different. But also, we can even go further and even create new production models, right? So imagine that, as a consumer, you are building your own jeans, and then these jeans are produced right after you have defined your jeans. So that could solve one very big problem of overproduction. How we need to deal with this overproduction, is not the answer. The answer probably is how we do not to create overproduction. So there is, lot of, opportunities for new business models, new production models, new ways of shopping as well. So new ways of designing.
Maybe jumping in, talking now about opportunities, and you've mentioned this before as well, European legislation. I would have a question if you also see a huge opportunity in there, and if you already feel it. I'm thinking particularly of an upcoming legislation, which would be the CSRD and the CSDD, which explicitly look not only at GHG emissions, but also at other aspects, among them water and waste. And they want to go deep into the value chain. So kind of like to motivate and incentivize companies to also reduce emissions, reduce water, reduce waste in their value chain. Do you feel the impact of this upcoming legislation?
The legislations are obviously necessary and are really addressing the manufacturing sides to, more sustainable finishing and more sustainable production models. But in the textile industry, this came a little bit before. For the last 10 years, there has been a growing interest in brands and retailers, to have garments that are produced in more sustainable ways. And this has, create also a great consciousness between the supply chains. So I think that in this area of the textiles, we are really advanced on that, right? With companies that are not starting to think, but that they are already committed to, do the necessary to produce with less impact. So the legislation will help to accelerate what has already started. But I really think that in this part of the manufacturing part, we have been talking about this for many years, and is it's kind of a no return.
Do you remind when this, or if there was suddenly a big shift that happened in the fashion industry regarding sustainability?
Not remember exactly the date, yeah, but I can tell you, for instance, my own story, right? When we launched the EIM, right, I think it was in 2012, we made a big fashion show where most of the denim players were going, right? So we were presenting this. There was a huge interest, right? So the people were saying, great thing, great tool, okay. Bye, thanks for showing to me. So it was kind of, we were, presenting a product that it was creating interest, but no one was, ready to go for it, right? So it was okay, great job, but there was not really an interest. In the last 10 years, I would say, in the last 10 years has, the interest has grown quite a lot, right? So there has been movements all around everything related to textile, water, chemical. There is a big revolution on the chemical side, energy, water processes, fibers. There is a lot of things going on, and many things that are happening that we as a consumers don't really see, but that they're out there, right? And the companies are working on, because there is a great need. I would say it's not just an interest, or it's not a commitment only, it's a need, right? So I feel now is a need for everyone to produce in a more sustainable way. And this is, you can see this growing this growing need, right, in the last 10 years, I would say.
Okay, on that note, I think we've talked about the past 30 years and the growing need of more sustainability action and aspects, and being more conscious when we are shopping. I think you mentioned the new ways of shopping. So on that note, what would be your lookout for the future, for, let's say, the next 10, 20, 30 years? Because as our job allows us to see, most of these sustainability targets are going until near term, so 2030, or long term, so 2040 or 2050. Do you have a high level forecast or lookout for the future in terms of sustainability and denim or jeans?
Mm-hmm. We have ourselves created, our mission, right? And our target is to have a great impact in 2025, right? So we have our mission zero, right, which is dehydrate and detoxicate the jeans production industry, making possible that every jeans in the planet is produced with 1 liter of water, right? And as a future trend and a way to really reduce or address all these sustainability problems, which are not just related with the resources that we use in the production, but also, as I mentioned before, the quantity of garments that are never sold, right? So that will be the on-demand production, which the technology will make possible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I really like the word dehydration because it's not something I would have thought of when it comes to garments, but it definitely makes a lot of sense. Now that we've coming towards the end of our conversation, I wanted to really ask a bonus question as a jeans owner. So how can I take care of jeans at home properly? So what do I do to, preserve it for a longer time, contain its color, let alone not shrink it while I'm washing it or dyeing other garments while I'm washing it? Is there any suggestion for the end user from Jeanologia's side?
Well, there is not Jeanologia who is saying this, but the big gurus of denim, right? So you don't need to wash your jeans, right?
Okay.
So that is one point, right? And the reasons why we wash a garment are many different, right? One is because because of the smell, because of the stains, right? Stains in jeans are beautiful, right? In fact, sometimes we are recreating some of the stains from the manufacturing side because this is giving character to the jeans, right? But really, it is not necessary to wash every day your jeans. This is part of the beauty of the product, right? That it will get older together with you, right? You are going to transfer to your jeans your character.
That's very funny that you said it because before our podcast, we've been looking into jeans and how to clean them. And we also found the urban legend of freezing jeans instead of washing them. So I'm not sure if I would feel comfortable putting my jeans into the freezer, but definitely giving it less wash could, prolong its lifetime. I agree.
Yes, for sure. In the life cycle assessment of different jeans, one area where we spend more is in the domestic care, right? So reduce the times you wash your jeans. You are already, creating a positive impact on that.
So maybe finishing off, my main takeaway then from today is that even myself as an end user can make conscious decisions to purchase greener jeans if I am informed by its label of the impact on water, on the energy intensity, on the climate, etc. But I can also take care of the jeans, reducing its impact during its life cycle at home. So
absolutely. And thanks again, Begonia, for being here with us. It was really a pleasure. I think it was very interesting. And I think it's a very interesting concept that you're doing at Jeanologia. Very nice that you introduced us to us. And I hope you will reach this target of 1 liter per jeans. And now I think I personally will look at my jeans a bit different, and
Sure. That's often what happens. You will never buy a pair of jeans as you have done up until now.
No, absolutely, and I really think I will not. So and I'm really happy for this. Yeah,
it's not only ourselves, then it's our listeners as well. So hopefully this podcast served to the purpose of informing the listeners about the impact of jeans, and it won't only be Moritz and myself being more conscious about our garments at home, but also the listeners. So thank you for sharing all the information, Begonia, today.
Welcome. Has been really a great pleasure to be here with you.